Sang-hyun, an old man of 55, sat on the ground, breathless and exhausted, his great sword resting heavily in his hands. He thought he should be preparing for retirement by now, yet he felt that his life had been nothing but a failure. At the edge of the cave, three dragons waited, ready to tear him apart. As they lunged, he swung his great sword in desperate defense. In that moment, his mind drifted back to his childhood, a memory that had shaped his entire life. He recalled the day when his mother had been seized by a monstrous creature. She had called out his name, urging him to run, moments before the monster crushed her skull. Her lifeless body had fallen to the ground before him, and the young Sang-hyun had been paralyzed with grief. As the beast reached for him, ready to devour his head, a blinding flash of light split the air, slicing the creature into pieces. A radiant knight stood before him, asking if he was all right. Overwhelmed, the boy had cried. He had been saved by what felt like a miracle. From that day forward, Sang-hyun had vowed to become like that knight who had rescued him. He fought goblins even while severely injured, battled strong orcs with nothing but a worn-out sword, and slew countless monsters. Yet no matter how much he fought, his strength never seemed to grow. He lost friends on the battlefield and, in his guilt and grief, had screamed into the lifeless faces he could not save. The memory faded as the present came rushing back. Sang-hyun had managed to cut the three dragons into pieces, but his body was weak, and his breath came in ragged gasps. Then the ground shook. A much larger dragon had entered the fray. The beast began to gather power for an attack. Sang-hyun planted his sword into the ground, ready to face it. He gave a faint, weary laugh, a tear slipping down his cheek, and wished, just for that moment, that he could rewind time. The sky glowed with golden light, spilling across the rocky wasteland where dragon corpses lay scattered. Sang-hyun had slain them all, his great sword now embedded in the head of one fallen beast. A shimmering system window confirmed his victory. Elder Dragon Lair cleared. He sighed in relief at having conquered the dungeon, but his roar of triumph quickly turned into a grumble. Sliding down the side of the dragon's head, he reflected on his life, his greatest achievement being a spot in the top 100 domestic rankings. Beyond his homeland, however, he was a nobody. There were far greater players in the world. The dungeon reward was a skill book. Sang-hyun had the rare ability to devour artifacts, yet he was uncertain if that extended to skill books. A mage emerged from a swirling blue portal, the man with whom Sang-hyun had a contract. Grateful for the mage's support, Sang-hyun acknowledged his own limits as a third-rate swordsman. The mage congratulated him on his victory and reminded him of his unique ability. The mage urged him to devour the skill book. As Sang-hyun reached for it, he thought back to when he first awakened his powers. This was the very first skill he had obtained, and yet, for decades, he had not known how to use it. He had tried absurd methods, boiling, roasting, and treating artifacts like food, but nothing worked. It took him 30 years to discover the secret, syncing his mana with the artifact according to its tier. By the time he mastered it, everyone else had long since perfected the technique, leaving him far behind in aging. He tried to devour the skill book, but failed. Frustrated, he threw it to the ground. The mage, feeling sorry, told him there was still time to figure it out. Sang-hyun snapped that he had no time. He was almost 60, full of regrets. He had given everything, and now he was old and tired. The mage's expression turned serious, though a faint smile tugged at his lips. Sang-hyun told him he intended to terminate their contract because of his age. As purple sparks began to envelop him, he rambled on, unaware that the mage had opened the book and begun chanting its contents. The world around Sang-hyun faded into a purple glow, his body dissolving into it. His last memory as a 55-year-old was the mage's face. The scene shifted to a televised interview where a journalist and the CEO of Hayeonjong Corporation discussed dungeons, gates, and other dimensions. The CEO claimed that dungeons formed the foundation for player development. Sang-hyun, watching the interview, realized with shock that he had been sent 30 years into the past. He was back in the apartment where he had once lived. Smiling as he polished his sword, he twirled the dagger of Venamos in his hand, a bronze artifact with 17 attack and plus 10 dexterity. He began syncing his mana with the dagger. His body shifted into a white-gold form, the manifestation of his artifact-devouring ability. Inside his mind space, each artifact turned into food before being consumed. This time, he was relieved to see roasted chicken. He ate, absorbing the artifact's essence. gaining +2 dexterity, and acquiring the skill Demon Bash. The dagger disintegrated, leaving him with its power. This possibility for growth reignited his determination. He was ready to raid again. Elsewhere, a massive blue portal awaited a raid party. Two players discussed preparations when a man in a blue shirt ran up to the captain, reporting that one of the players, a newbie who had joined 3 days ago, hadn't shown up. The man mentioned Sangyun's name. The captain decided to keep Sangyun on the roster, but the blue-shirted man protested, claiming Sangyun should be classified as a non-player. The captain cut him off, saying his decision was final. The vice-captain quietly asked why they were bringing a rookie. The captain smirked darkly, saying they had nothing to lose if the newbie died. He would make a fine meat shield. When Sanghyun arrived, smiling with a great sword strapped to his back, the other non-player members glared at him with jealousy. The captain eyed the unwieldy weapon and asked why he had chosen it. Sanghyun replied that he had watched many videos and thought it looked cool. The captain laughed, threw an arm around him, and wished him luck. As the raid party gathered at the dungeon entrance, inside, the orc's lair awaited. A den of savage warriors. With a vile grin, the captain predicted that Sanghyun was about to learn the hard way. Orcs were familiar monsters in games, novels, and movies. Brutish creatures most players thought they understood. They were often dismissed as weak compared to legendary beasts like dragons. Yes, orcs were dim-witted and prone to violence, but they stood nearly 8 feet tall, weighed close to 400 pounds, and possessed raw strength far beyond that of a human. Rookie players who underestimated them often charged recklessly into battle, only to be grabbed by the head and killed instantly. That was why veteran adventurers called them the Wall of Instant Regret. In the dungeon's shadowed corridor, the party advanced cautiously. A man clad in black armor sneered at Sanghyun, calling him a rookie and warning that no one would help him just because he was new. Sanghyun offered a nervous smile and said he would do his best to assist. The black-armored knight barked at him that trying wouldn't cut it in a dungeon and openly ridiculed his skills. Confident, Sanghyun replied that he would take the lead against the monsters. The knight turned pale mid-retort, shouting that an orc was behind him. Sanghyun reached for his great sword, but before he could act, the knight stepped in with his shield, knocking the orc back. He yelled for Sanghyun to fall back, warning that he was too slow with a great sword. Then the orc smashed through the knight's guard, its axe arcing toward his neck. Shock flashed across the knight's face, until the captain slammed his shield into the orc's face, sending the creature crashing to the ground. "Stay alert, don't panic," the captain barked. Morale lifted immediately with him in command. The orc charged, the captain met the blow with his shield, and then countered with a thrust into its chest. Blood poured from the wound and the party cheered, but the orc's eyes flared red. It wrenched free, lifted its axe, and swung with bone-shattering force. The captain dodged, the ground cracked under the blow. Again the orc attacked. The captain blocked and retaliated with a deep, driving stab that finally brought the creature down. His team erupted in cheers once more, but their relief was short-lived. A roar shook the corridor. At the far end, a squad of high orcs emerged, eyes glowing crimson. Their armored leader, one of the party members, shouted in panic about the armored high orc. The captain immediately called for a retreat, declaring it too dangerous. Sanghyun stepped forward, saying he would take a shot at them. The party stared in shock. Before the captain could stop him, he charged forward, great sword in hand. His first swing crushed a high orc into the ground. The system flashed, level up, level 2 achieved. The armored high orc glared and charged at him. Sanghyun moved smoothly, his blade slicing through 2 more orcs in one motion. A masked high orc leapt up from above. Sanghyun sidestepped and slashed its face. The party looked on, stunned, as the rookie dismantled the enemy squad. Now only the armored high orc remained, 3 times larger than the others, wielding a sword and shield. It bellowed and swung. Sanghyun dodged, the blows shattering the ground, and countered with a strike to its shoulder. The cut was shallow. Its armor had absorbed most of the force. The orc swung back to take his head, but froze mid-motion, its body enveloped in a purple aura. Demon Bash stun applied, 2 seconds, the system window read. Sanghyun smirked. "Stay still," he told it, and delivered the final blow. The orc's head flew across the room, landing at the captain's feet. Blue energy radiated from Sanghyun as he stood over the battlefield. The captain stared, unnerved. The system chimed again. Level up, title earned, fearless puppy, +5 evasion. Sanghyun, recalling what he had learned in his previous life, invested his stat point into luck, knowing it boosted both skill success rates and drop chances. The captain approached, asking if he was truly a newbie and pressing him about the stun. Sang-Hyun, unable to reveal his time travel, lied that he had gained it upon awakening. The captain accused him of lying, suspecting his sword was a rare diamond-tier artifact. Sang-Hyun handed it over. It was completely ordinary. Frustrated, the captain returned the weapon. Before he could say more, a teammate shouted that the dungeon's mini-boss had spawned. The captain thanked Sang-Hyun for handling the mobs and headed for the door, warning him that his flashy moves wouldn't work on the demon orc. Sang-Hyun grinned. This was exactly why he had joined the party upon returning to the past. Standing beside the beheaded high orc, he remarked that if he killed the demon orc himself, he would take the artifact drop. The captain's face darkened with anger, as Sang-Hyun's face widened with joy. The red gallstone was rare beyond belief. In his previous life, he had failed this very raid with the same party. He had watched another team succeed and claim the gallstone for themselves. He remembered standing in the dungeon, blood dripping down his face, watching the bald captain of that victorious team hold the crimson gem aloft. Now the scene shifted back to the present. Sang-Hyun stood before the party at the dungeon's mini-boss door, waiting for the captain's decision. The other members were furious, warning him it was suicide to face the demon orc and telling him to back off. They approached, ready to argue. When the captain unexpectedly told him to go alone and defeat it, the party was stunned. The captain, visibly frustrated at what he saw as Sang-Hyun's arrogance, strode toward the door and opened it himself. A burst of blue light washed over his face as the chamber was revealed. Inside stood a towering figure, its purple body bound by heavy chains, a glowing red orb embedded in its chest. Torchlight flared along the walls, casting shadows that danced over the massive form of the demon orc. The captain rallied his party, ordering them to flank the creature. Confidently, he charged with his team, but in the blink of an eye, he was struck down, blood streaming down his face as he struggled to rise. From the doorway, Sang-Hyun watched grimly. He remembered all too well that in his past life, this reckless charge had led to their defeat. The demon orc's eyes blazed as it hefted its enormous axe. The captain, still bleeding and unable to stand properly, he called for a retreat, ordering his party to escape while the boss's narrow field of vision gave them a chance. Sang-Hyun's expression betrayed none of the fear the others felt. In fact, he looked almost pleased. This startled the captain. As the team withdrew, the captain urged him again to leave, warning of the demon orc's power. But Sang-Hyun only drew his great sword, stepping forward to face the monster. The demon orc charged, axe raised high. Sang-Hyun's eyes glowed blue as he entered a heightened battle state, clenching his weapon and parrying the massive strike. The monster snarled in frustration. The captain, halfway to the door, turned in disbelief. Sang-Hyun's hands trembled from the impact, but he grinned, his gaze fixed on the glowing red orb. He thought to himself that the delay skill from the orb, combined with his demon bash, stacking stuns to lock the enemy in place. He raised his sword, waiting for the next attack. The demon orc roared and charged again. At the last second, Sang-Hyun sidestepped, struck from behind and knocked the axe from its grasp. He activated demon bash. The system confirmed a 2-second stun. The captain was astonished. Stuns rarely worked on mini-bosses, but the orc recovered quickly, lashing out with a kick. Sang-Hyun blocked, sliding back and leaving a curved gouge in the ground from his sword's drag. Then he noticed something troubling. The demon orc's wounds were closing. The beast reclaimed its axe and charged again. Sang-Hyun met it head-on, parrying and forcing its weapon into the ground. The two clashed in the center of the room, exchanging blow after blow as the captain's party watched from a distance. The captain realized something unsettling. Sang-Hyun was enjoying himself, even though the stuns no longer worked and the enemy was stronger than him. The orc's relentless assault finally drove Sang-Hyun back into a corner, yet his eyes remained locked on his target. As the demon orc sprinted in for the kill, Sang-Hyun used its own momentum, thrusting his sword deep into its chest. The monster collapsed dead. The system message flashed, mini-boss defeated, title acquired Demon Hunter. The captain approached in disbelief. Sang-Hyun called out, saying he would have been killed if the captain hadn't damaged the boss earlier. The captain realized this was a lie meant to spare him embarrassment in front of his party. When the captain glanced at the red gallstone, he hesitated, then left it for Sang-Hyun, keeping his earlier promise. He ordered the team onward to the dungeon's final boss. Sang-Hyun stood in place for a moment, smiling at the prize in his hands. The red gallstone wasn't just loot. It was his next meal. After the battle with the demon orc, Sang-hyun slipped into that strange in-between space of unconsciousness. He found himself before a steaming bowl of cold noodles with boiled pork. Sitting down, he began to eat, savoring the meal as the red gallstone's energy seeped into him. The system confirmed his gains, +2 strength, +2 stamina, and the delay skill acquired. Opening his status screen, Sang-hyun immediately applied delay to Demon Bash. Another notification appeared. When a stun effect was active, a second stun could now be added. He sat on the dungeon floor, eyes wide. A 4-second stun lock on any enemy, mini-boss or not, was game-changing. The captain approached, extending a hand. He invited Sang-hyun to join the party for the final boss. Without hesitation, Sang-hyun agreed. A blonde-haired knight called over that the preparations were complete. Sang-hyun noticed the knight's glare. There was fury and jealousy in those eyes. The party entered a massive chamber. At its center lay a hulking figure gripping a mace in one hand and a club in the other, its body radiating a deep red aura. As it rose with a thunderous roar, weapons ready, the party prepared for battle. But before the captain could take point, Sang-hyun stepped in front. He dashed toward the berserker, meeting its charge head-on. This was the first time in his life he had ever taken the lead. In his previous life, he had been a coward, scraping by with poor stats, growing bitter as the years passed. He vowed never to return to that weakness. The orc berserker swung its mace downward, but Sang-hyun parried. When it raised the weapon again, he struck, slicing deep into its right shoulder. "Stun applied!" he shouted to the party. The others surged forward, striking in coordinated blows. The berserker staggered under the onslaught until, with one final strike, it collapsed. The system message appeared. Final boss defeated. Dungeon cleared. Sang-hyun had leveled up again, receiving the title Overwhelming Power. His thoughts turned briefly to Gyeongsu-do, known as the Sword Demon, the strongest swordsman in the nation. Sang-hyun clenched his fist and smiled. He could reach that height. The captain stepped forward and handed him a bronze artifact. Surprised, Sang-hyun asked why. The captain explained it was a thank you gift, adding that this might be the last time they met. Sang-hyun was destined for the top. The blonde knight's jealousy only deepened. Back in town, Sang-hyun received his dungeon reward, a substantial sum of money. Examining the artifact, he found its special effect, featherweight, which reduced item weight at the cost of continuous mana consumption. In his past life, he had encountered similar items. Sinking them with mana removed the cost but imposed a permanent penalty. This time, he chose to sink it immediately. Accepting the penalty, his growing strength would make up for it. Meanwhile, at a dimly lit club, the blonde-haired knight ranted to his boss about Sang-hyun's skills. The boss, clearly annoyed, tried to ignore him and enjoy his drink. The knight urged him to teach Sang-hyun a lesson. Suddenly, a purple-haired man with a villain's smirk sliced off the knight's ear and poured alcohol over it. "There," he said coldly, "I've just earned myself a favor worth an ear."